What's up everybody, Nate here, and today we've got to talk all about taxes because apparently, according to some advocates and some tax professionals, our IRS system is in crisis mode in 2022. And basically what that means for you is that there could be some major tax delays and some major problems with your tax returns later on this year. So today I want to talk all about what is happening with the IRS, why it's in crisis mode, and what you need to know when filing your taxes for 2022. But before I get into all of that, smash, hit, or demolish that like button because that's what helps us out here on YouTube, and it's what helps us to make even more videos just like this one. All right, so let's get into what's going on with the IRS. So the IRS is essentially the Internal Revenue Service of the United States, and they're the reason why your earnings go from gross earnings to total earnings on your paycheck. So if you've ever wondered why so much money ends up coming out of your paycheck every single week, well, that's because of the IRS. And right now, the IRS is in some major trouble as far as giving you back some of that money that you've given to them. According to a taxpayer advocate, 2021 was the most challenging year for tax professionals and taxpayers. And now in 2022, taxpayers are beginning to file their 2021 tax returns, which means tax professionals are going to have to start looking at all of those numbers, and they are a little ill-equipped to do so. And the reason for that is because over the last decade, the IRS's budget has been slashed by around 20%, and that's even accounting for the inflation rate. And in that same time period, the IRS has lost around 33,000 full-time employees, which includes 13,400 enforcement personnel, so the people that actually make sure that you're paying your taxes correctly. And that is the first problem that most taxpayers are going to run into when filing their tax returns this year. There just isn't enough people in the IRS to actually look over all of the tax returns. Funding for the IRS has gone down over the last decade, and that means that there is a lot less people and a lot less infrastructure behind the Internal Revenue Service. And that means when you go to submit your tax return, it might take you a little bit longer to actually see that money go through. And it might take a lot longer just to get processed in general, which means if you were relying on that tax return being very quick, well, then you might see a bit of a delay. In fact, there's still a large group of people in the United States that hasn't even received their last tax returns yet. And this has definitely happened before with the IRS. I mean, like I said, a lot of these problems and a lot of these funding issues were not happening overnight. The IRS has been losing money, administration after administration, for a long time now. Like at the beginning of 2021, the IRS was still processing around 11.7 million tax returns that were left over from 2020. And this year is not going to be any different because the IRS has millions of tax returns that they still need to go through for the year 2020. So basically, you file your tax return for all of the income and all of your earnings a year after you make all of those earnings. So this year, you're going to file your 2021 income tax return. By mid-December, though, the IRS still had around 2.8 million unprocessed business tax returns and around 4.75 million pieces of correspondence that they still needed to go through. And all of that is for the 2020 tax returns. So basically, the IRS is a little bit behind on its homework because in 2022, they're still working on 2020 tax returns. And like I said, this has led to millions of individuals having delays on their tax returns. So typically it takes around 21 days for the IRS to get you your tax return. However, there are still millions of people who have not yet received their 2020 income tax return, and there are a few different reasons for this. For one, the IRS and the federal government made some pretty big changes to when we can submit our tax returns in 2020 and in 2021. Normally, the date to submit your tax return is on April 15th. That is the absolute deadline. You can start submitting your tax returns as early as January 24th. However, I think we can all admit that there was a lot going on over the last 2 years. So there was a lot of people that actually weren't submitting their tax returns by the deadline on April 15th. In fact, they were submitting them much later. Now, this is completely legal to do as long as you let the IRS know that you're going to be submitting a late tax return. And in some cases, the IRS actually moved their dates several months, so you could actually wait much longer before submitting your tax paperwork. Now, that is great for the consumer and for the taxpayer because you can actually actually wait and put off your tax return for a very long time. You don't really got to think about it. However, for the IRS, that can be a very difficult situation because now you are creating a backlog and they don't really know when you are going to submit your tax return. So if you're actually waiting months and months to submit your tax return, that's actually bad for the IRS. And on top of that, number two, there was a lot of people in 2021 that didn't submit their tax returns online. Now the IRS actually prefers that you submit your tax return online. However, not everybody actually submits their tax paperwork through something like TurboTax. TurboTax is basically just a service that you can use that files all of your paperwork for you. So it basically walks you through the process, and TurboTax will submit that to the federal government. However, I bet you didn't know that you don't have to use one of these services in order to file your tax returns. You can actually do it the old-fashioned way with pen and paper. Now it works the same way, you just have to get all of the paperwork from your local government and then go out and submit that to the federal government. The problem here is that paper is basically death when it comes to the IRS, at least in the words of the taxpayer advocate. In fact, one taxpayer advocate basically said that paper is the kryptonite to the IRS, and currently the IRS is buried in paper filings. Basically, if you file online, then all of that information is sent to the federal government, and we can have automatic systems and robotic systems that can control that transaction. However, if you don't do it online, then a physical person needs to look at your tax return, and the IRS is just short people. But again, it's not illegal to do that, and it's completely acceptable, and it saves consumers and taxpayers money because TurboTax is not free. You actually have to pay to file your taxes. And I know that that's a shock to some people because they advertise as free, but there's a lot of other fees associated with filing your tax return. And we have only scratched the surface here because there is a lot more going on that's taking up the IRS's time instead of looking at your tax returns. For instance, the IRS received around 282 million phone calls in 2021 alone. Not all of them were actually answered though. In fact, only around 32 million of them were answered and the rest were just left on hold. This is because, again, there's just not enough people at the IRS to answer all of these phone calls. Consumers though had a lot of tax questions in 2021. Tax questions about the stimulus payments, tax questions about unemployment, and tax questions about what's going on in our country today. Because there's a lot happening with money right now, there's a lot happening with investing. Americans are understandably concerned about how they're going to file their taxes. I mean, most Americans want to file their taxes correctly. However, that becomes difficult if you don't have someone to talk to at the IRS about your tax concerns. What that leads to is more delays. So now people that aren't getting their questions answered are having to find alternative means to get their questions answered. So they have to go find a tax professional, or they have to just basically do a Google search. More often than not, they're going to have their questions answered, but if they don't, then they're going to delay doing their tax return, and that delays the IRS from looking at it. And finally, your refund might get delayed this year because the IRS website is crashing a lot. In fact, there were hundreds of millions of people that visited the IRS website last year, which has caused some technical problems. Actually, the IRS.gov website had over 2 billion visitors in 2021 alone. That is more than 650 million more people than we saw in 2019. And what exactly are all these people going to the IRS website for? Well, they're using the Where's My Refund tool that the IRS has on its site. Basically, when you have millions of people that are concerned about why they're not getting their refund, they're going to go on the IRS's website and use this Where's My Refund tool. Now, the tool is supposed to basically show you the status of your tax refund. And it's also supposed to tell you when you can expect to see your refund in the future. However, this tool has some pretty serious issues. For one, it's not updated very regularly. And two, the IRS website continues to crash. I mean, I'm not a tech master, but when you have millions of people going to a site all at the same time, well, the bandwidth of that site just can't support all of those people. So when it goes down, somebody has to fix it, which of course is another resource that that is being taken away from the IRS when they have to constantly go in and fix the website. That's not really something that you can fix. I mean, you can get better servers, I guess. Again, I'm not a tech person. However, I can tell you that all of these people are going to continue to go to the IRS's website. Now, what exactly does all of this mean for you and your refund? Is there actually a way that you can get your refund in a timely manner? Well, kinda, but not really. I mean, the IRS can only do so much, and you can only do so much too, but here is a few tips. For one, use online methods when sending in your 2021 tax return. This means filing electronically, and make sure you have a direct deposit set up so that the IRS can quickly and easily send you your tax refund without having to send you a check. Number two, get all of your information together right now. That means you need to get all of your tax return information as quickly as possible, and this might be more than just your W-2. A W-2 basically shows how much you made and how much was withdrawn from your paycheck every single week by the IRS. You're gonna have to submit that too, and having this handy as well as some other financial documents is going to be key in getting your tax refund back quicker. If you sold any assets in 2021, or if you have any other exemptions like federal student loans or children, all of these things are going to affect how much taxes and how much taxable income you have for the year 2021. So you're going to want to have all of that information handy and ready so that you could submit. And number three, you're going to want to submit as early as possible. The season officially starts on January 24th, so get all of your materials together right now because you need to submit as soon as you possibly can. The quicker you submit and the quicker you do those three things, the faster you're going to get your refund. This gives the IRS the best chance possible when reviewing your tax return. And I know some of you on this channel hate the IRS and hate the idea of taxes, but legally, taxes are something that you have to pay, so please don't skip out on your taxes because you don't feel like you need to pay them. Not sure if I needed to say that, but I did, so. Now, with all of that being said, this has been a problem for a while now, but the reason that it's a big problem right now is all because of the pandemic. When the pandemic first started, a lot of things changed, and a lot of things about our tax code began to change too. Now, it's important to mention that our tax code in the United States changes pretty much every year. The reason for that is because Congress and state governments come out with new reasons for the tax code to change. Reasons like new bills, or they have to reallocate money towards something else. I mean, when a new bill comes out, we have to find a new way to pay for it. And lately, they've been getting pretty creative about how we start paying for all of these proposals. Remember too that the United States federal government and state governments in general are nonprofits. So for the most part, they have no way of making money. The only way that they get money is through taxpayer dollars. And like I said, the IRS, because of all of its budget cuts, is in crisis right now. There are not enough hands on deck in order to process all of these tax returns that we're seeing. But also, there's not enough hands on deck to process all of the audits and all of the people who are avoiding taxes in 2021 and years prior. What that ultimately means is you have super wealthy corporations, super wealthy people, and just in general, people in the United States who are just not submitting their tax returns, and they're not paying any taxes. And the IRS doesn't have the manpower in order to track all of those people down. It's gonna take them a long time. In the meantime, the United States is losing a lot of revenue. So what is the solution to this problem? Well, for the United States federal government, it is more money. Shocker there. The United States federal government proposed that this year in 2022, the budget be increased by 15% for the IRS. In addition, President Joe Biden's Build Back Better bill also has a big budget increase for the IRS. That would give it nearly $80 billion in funding over the next 10 years. Advocates around the country, though, said that this will not immediately solve all of our tax problems, because even though you hire more workers and build more systems, that doesn't mean that all of those workers are going to know what to do right away. You're still going to have to train them, and you're going to have to get them into those positions. And you're going to have to find people that actually want to work in the IRS. All of that is going to take time, and in the meantime, there are millions of Americans who are not getting a refund, and on the flip side, millions of Americans who are just not paying their taxes. What that means right now is that you have programs that are being underfunded because they expect to get so much money from taxpayers, and taxpayers aren't paying. dying. That is a big blow to our infrastructure in the United States. And now you have some reports saying that our tax season in 2022 is going to be just as bad, if not worse, than it was in 2021. Not to mention that taxpayers are facing a ton of new changes to our tax code in 2022. Now, I already made a video detailing all of those new tax changes that you can definitely expect this year, and if you want to check that video out, I will leave a link to it in the description below. That is it for me, but before you go, let me know how you feel about this issue. What do you think our tax season is going to look like in 2022? Do you think we're going to continue to face massive issues, or do you think it's going to be a better year for the IRS and tax refunds in general? In addition, do you think the IRS needs more funding? Do you think that'll actually fix a lot of our taxpayer issues? Or are you on the opposite side of the fence and you think that the IRS actually needs a lot less funding to its organization? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below before you go. That is it for today's business and financial news breakdown. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, be sure to hit that subscribe button below. Be kind, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next one.